Hi everyone, my name is Neve. You can call me Irish, whichever is easier for you. Today we have the topic made by Jacob himself. We thought it was an interesting project. All of us are working on different things. Me and Shubzi, Maurice, has very similarities in terms of like consultancy and like helping Web3 brands grow. We have Lars, who is Tiny Vikings, literally working on the most amazing project right now. And then with Jacob, he is the tech wizard of, I think, the entire Web3 space. If you haven't heard of Jacob before or you have any like smart contract questions, I think he's definitely the best person. We have a few questions that we want to make this session a bit immersive. I think like when we first talk about like how to grow a project, it's definitely completely different in Web3 than it is in Web2. Why we want to talk today about why no one cares about your NFT project is because literally most projects are like short term, they're not long term. We want to show you that like long term is like a feasible solution in the Web3 space. You just need to know how to go about it. So I want to talk to Shubzi first because we share the same passion with marketing. There's definitely not enough marketers in the Web3 space that I think are like, you know, have worked with like several clients before. Do you have like an example of maybe, you know, who is like a brand maybe that has done it wrong and who's a brand that has done it right and why?
A brand that's done it wrong. I'd say, okay, well, I'll start with a brand that did it right. A brand that did it right on ETH was Pudgy. Pudgy did it right. But the reason it did it right is because marketing isn't posting on Twitter. Marketing is making collaborations behind the scenes. And then both companies or both entities then launch the collab. So for example, if a blockchain is gonna partner with a company, let's say a protocol, that protocol will post, the blockchain will post as well, and then what they do behind the scenes is they'll run, well, this is what a lot of companies are doing now, they'll run quest campaigns in the back. So they'll get back end where they'll have tons of people from third world countries all come and engage, and then they'll have their own communities engage as well. But because it's being pushed by both entities with a massive community, it's going to be successful and it'll blow. And then the aftermath, the momentum that's built from that, well you saw what happened with Pudgy Penguins. Right? They were everywhere, right? Another person that did it well was an individual, and we probably some of us know of the name I Choose Rich. That thing ripped, it blew up like crazy. If you don't know him, go on Twitter, type in @allnick, and you'll see this one individual took the entire of crypto Twitter for a ride.
But that's like influencer, right?
Influencer, yeah. However, what he did was he didn't actually mean for it to go that big. He just said, "I choose rich," and then someone made a ticker. And then what he started doing is he was just bantering. Oh, I'm in my penthouse. I'm in this. I'm in blah 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 blah. And then the community notes was created saying he's not actually in a penthouse. This is his Airbnb, and he was battling the community notes. But he wasn't in an Airbnb. He wasn't in his own private car. He wasn't in his own helicopter pad. He did it on purpose to farm everything. So again, things like that, collaborations, using current trends and pushing the narrative, no matter what, is what works really well. But companies that did it wrong, probably every other company in the space.
And that's the problem, right? I think way too many have done it wrong. But they don't care because you can easily move on to the next project. But I don't think that's the correct mentality that you should have in the Web3 space. You don't want to have more projects, right, that fail. I know we all like agree that is a thing, but we want to, you know, emphasize the ones that do work, right? And a lot of them are like our clients that we have worked on, and it's good to talk about them and see what the difference is. But you mentioned a good point as well, that you mentioned like when I said a brand, you came up with one person's name. You didn't come up with, like you said, Pudgy Penguins, okay, organization, yes, and Walmart, you can, like, they've gone above and beyond. But I find it really interesting that people will talk about like reputable sources, and you'll always like, I think referral is a very big thing. You have to have like a reputable person that will recommend to you. So if you mentioned one person, I want to ask Lars and Jacob, do you have one person in the like Web3 space that you know has already launched a successful NFT project? You know, is there anyone that you really look up to for that reason?
Yeah, I think there's sorry, a few ways to look at this, and as Shubsi sort of noted, like this is all about entertainment as well. You know, you have to build something that people like, and you have to keep people entertained. One interesting sort of, I guess it became a meme, but a few years ago, back in the early NFT craze, like one of the big stories was this NFT collection where suddenly they minted, and then they announced that the founder was dead in the Discord, and then sorry guys, might not reveal because the founder is dead. A few weeks later, he comes back to life, and then a few weeks later, he dies again. This is a true story. I don't know if he actually died and came back, but that would be pretty amazing. But yeah, so you have to entertain people. You have to build something that people care about. And there's a few ways to do this. Some are going for a straight up cult. If you look at like what ZK has done with OMBs like Ordo Maxibiz and other people as well, like that's you have to really connect with people. And I think just shilling it, like Shepsy said as well, like you can't just pump it out. It needs to be a story. It needs to be long term. Either if that's building something real or just building, a social cult which people, want to be a part of. Like, we've seen with apes, we've seen with punks, and now see a lot of them on the ordinal side as well.
Yeah, Jacob, what about you?
Can you repeat the question again, just so I make sure I get it right?
Yeah, so for example, is there, like, would you look up to a brand or a reputable source, like a person for advice in the NFT space, whether it be like looking into growing a community or looking to join a community, or else looking to like invest or whatever? Would you, like, who would you look for those sources?
Well, given that I'm a more technical person in the space and not involved much with collecting or communities, what I look up to are the people who create the token standards that we all use, the people who create these good documentation about the technology and provide sample functions and contracts and stuff like that. I'm not really one to look to collection creators or collectors or anyone like that for a source of truth on it. So maybe not so much on the community side of things where you look to people who have done a good project, who have introduced a good community, but rather looking at who has actually introduced good utility to the space.
So you would look for like a particular developer, or would you like try and research everything yourself, basically?
Pretty much researching everything myself. Though there are like good developers out there and good organizations, like all the Open Zeppelin contracts out there, that is a really good source of information for anyone who's trying to do a good project in the space.
Repeat that again for anyone that didn't hear it in the back.
Yeah, so looking into the Open Zeppelin contracts, for example, all of these different sources that exist within Web3 who have created good contracts, created good standards, I would say those are ones to look up to if you want to make a really good project. Make sure that the contract that is supporting it and the code that is running it is actually of good quality and not something that's going to fail miserably.
Whoa, and mic dropped, he can finish now. No, I want to talk about basically, like you mentioned a very good point, Lars, as well. You said that like we hear a lot about like people running away from projects. A lot of those people are anonymous because they don't have like reputation that we know of their history. I know a lot of people like here today are, would have like an alt account on Twitter, and they tend to do, I think, pretty well. When launching projects, people kind of like the suspense and this, will we ever find out who is the person behind the brand? And for some reason, it does extremely well, right? Because it's totally different to Web 2. You'll never see it there. I think for like when we were like looking at like Rare Pepe, when we were looking at like so many like tokens that did extremely well, and like people never knew who was behind it. If you find out basically who is behind the project, then the price could drop instantly. So why does that happen? I think like for example, we were talking about like different ways to grow a community. So what is the most important like metrics, when you're like evaluating a community? What do you look for?
The first thing I look for in a community is a Discord or Telegram channel. I want to see what the narrative of the conversation is. So you can have tons of followers on Twitter, you can have really good engagement, but that can all be farmed, that can all be bought. So when I go into the Telegram or the Discord, let's say if it's a project about Tiny, right? Tiny Vikings. You go in there, I would say 85 to 90% of the conversation isn't even on Tiny Vikings. It's just on like general stuff in Bitcoin space, in ordinals. And that sustained over a long enough period of time, we'll start to have connections like these made, going out, making memories, going back into Discord. Yo, do you remember Tallinn? It was lit, it was this, da-da-da-da. Where you going next? I'm gonna go NFC. Oh, dope. And then you find out, there's someone that in Tiny Vikings that lives in Lisbon. Oh, sweet, I'll connect with you out there as well. So the conversation starts to veer away from the actual project itself. That project could have 50 people, 100 people. But because the conversation is away from the actual project and they're actually getting to know each other, the strength in that community, when it grows to 100,000, 10,000, 20,000, it's got that root in the middle, and it's deep. Most projects today, you go into the Discord, when mint, when this, when that, and yeah, it's bants, but if that's the only convo, when the token or the NFT launches, it dumps straight away, because there's no other narrative apart from pump and dump. Like, King has done loads of projects before. Conversation in there is just, what's everyone up to? X, Y, and Z. Let's hang, let's chill, let's vibe. So I look for that. And then as soon as I see that, if I see this dope conversation, there's good vibes, everyone's having a good time, I know already, okay, cool. This project is either doing well or it has the potential to do extremely well. If the conversation is the other way, I'm like, yeah, you lot need help.
So if they're too direct, like if it's only about the community, you get pissed off, right?
Yeah.
You literally just have zero interest anymore. You're like, I didn't come here just for that, right? You
No,
came
yeah,
here
100.
for a relationship, like to make friends, or to it's basically forming a cult, right? And without us really, I think a lot of people, when they hear like cult, they think of religion, they think of, you know, outside of like communities, but it is a cult, because there's so many like NFT projects out there that don't have utility, don't have use cases, you know. And I think this is something that Jacob said, like he's not interested in that because he just wants to know like what's the function of something. I come from like an artist background, so I'm a visual learner. I like to see something that looks nice. I'll buy it if I think it's good. The community is definitely something that I would look at as well, but for everyone is different, right? Not everyone likes to use Discord, not everyone likes Telegram. I don't know about you, but if I could delete all the apps like that, I would. I really would, but I can't because I would do it for a job. Is there anyone here in the audience that like doesn't have Discord, for example, or doesn't have Telegram? Okay, why don't you have Telegram? Why do you hate it? Yeah. There's like a minimum. Yeah, there's like a minimum limit, like how many messages you can pin and stuff. The UX design is terrible. That is something that the UX for everything needs to be improved, right? OpenSea, all of the different marketplaces. I think where your brand is visible says so much about you, as like how people find out about you as well is so important. I want to move on to Lars, because you are a founder, builder yourself for Tiny Vikings. What are you finding with your community? Like, how do you think like people bond together? Like, because it's really active, right? You have Twitter groups, you have Discord, you have it all. Like, how do you manage that? How do you make sure like everyone's having a good time?
I think we've been sort of building Tiny Vikings over the last couple of years. Actually, I was here last year. We hadn't minted, we haven't deployed, but I think it's all a learning experience, and like we are sort of now on the brink, or still very early in ordinals. People are still sort of coming back to Bitcoin after having, a downturn, and, people missed the boat on Solana. They think they missed the boat on ordinals now, but really they didn't. Every day it's a learning experience. We learn together, we build together with the community. And I think, we've tried to like figure out like what's the actual recipe to succeed. And I think I have like, 5 points that you have to fill as many of them as possible. One is like you either have to have done this before, you have to be someone in the industry that has like, one, done it before, 2, be like a very visible person in the industry that people listen to, 3, build something completely new that hasn't been seen before, back to the token standards. If you go look at ETH like 404, like these things, like who is actually writing these things, then you get like a lot of cred. 4, you need to have a lot of money. People still like money, if they see that you have a lot of money, they might want to get some of that money. And 5, you need to have all the memes. Memes still rule the world. And that's, I think the more you have of these, the more likely you are to be successful. So yeah, I think that's, something that we, have really tried understanding and really utilize as much as we can.
For any person here that is in the corporate world and they're hearing you talk about memes, they're like, I hate, and like I'm never joining the NFT space after listening to this panel. Why are memes so important though in the Web3 space? Like, it's in a way it's like free marketing, right? Like the virality of it, that your community can create the marketing for you without you having a massive marketing team. So like why do you think like they tend to be so strong in this space compared to like outside of Web3?
I think it's like, this is an internet phenomena. This is not like, I think, exclusive to Web3. And, people have been, growing up on the internet and like, outside of apps, like the actual internet in a browser and like, fucking up shit, like just snipping things here, building new stories. And if you think about it, memes are just, stand-up comedy online. And that's, I think, something that we wanted to tap into as well with Tiny. And if you go and then, click your Tiny Viking inscription, we also had made it so that you can get the head out, just the actual head with the beard. And that's something we saw like day 2 of listing Tiny Vikings. Like this guy rolls into our Discord and he just like fucking starts blasting out the memes. So if you go check out our Discord, check out the Twitter, it's like, it's on fire. And I think, you asked as well, like, how do you manage it? You can't really manage it. You just got to give the tools to the community. And like, if they start running with it, other people will start running with it. And, people are also learning how to make memes in our Discord.
So people are becoming like visual designers by default. Like
exactly, yeah.
We kind of equip them, right?
And I think back to the corporate side, that like people who are in corporate and don't understand this, like look at the the ultimate, like the most productive guy in the world, Elon Musk. He says like memes does rule the world, and I think we shouldn't like take too lightly on that, and we should rather lean into it. And it doesn't all need to look like 8chan or 4chan. It can look it can be funny, it can be snarky, but it also has to be some of those things. And I think that's what memes allows us to do. And that's you mentioned Pepe as well. Like, why is that successful? We don't really know who the creators are, but we're all frogs inside.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, I think, was it your second point? You said try something new. You said experimentation. It's something that why a lot of NFT projects are not successful. Copy paste smart contract, and I'm talking about the developers doing this that you're paying. And this is why I'm moving on to Jacob now, because you're seeing it a lot. You're coming from the eyes of, let's create new standards, because if we keep using the same ones, yes, it's like it can be easier for new people joining the NFT space if they know exactly everyone is using, like, okay, if everyone is using Ethereum, but that's not going to happen at the end of the day. We have to make it easier for people to join like new communities and new standards. So with experimentation, you've done a lot of it recently as well. We had this conversation yesterday. Can you explain like the importance of that, that we can't just have this copy paste mentality for smart contracts, projects? Like, we're not going to grow as a Web3 space unless we come up with new like ideas, basically.
Well, yeah, and just as a little bit of background for that first, just the panel topic itself, why no one cares about your NFT project, that was inspired from the fact that, I know OpenSea is dead now, but if you used to open up OpenSea or any marketplace and look through there, like 90% of the content you're going to find is just the same format of projects, the same like Bored Ape or Pudgy Penguins copycats with the same shitty art, the exact same goal where they try to mint at the same price for the same number of NFTs. They all start a community, then it all dies miserably because they didn't do anything unique. So what I see that could get people to care about your projects is doing something new with the technology. The projects that actually stand out and like last the test of time are ones that do something unique, whether it be from what we've discussed already, being in the social and community areas, like doing something cool there, sort of getting a cult following, or whether it be making a unique use of the technology. So that's where I think is best, is new use of the technology. If you introduce something new into the tokens, or you're doing something new with it, that's going to drive forward the industry. This is how it continues to evolve. If we're trying new things with the tokens, like one thing that I work with is tokenization of software licensing. I think we're going to see a lot in the future of using NFTs and stuff like authentication, licensing, credentials. And as we have projects that start to make use of this, it's going to push the technology forward so that there's going to be more cases that we haven't even thought of yet that become possible.
What do you think will be the new like standard, or what, like, explain to me like a little bit about what you're working on as well? I think like people would be interested to dive into that smart brain of yours a bit more.
Well, I think the sort of new standard we might see in the future is people not even being aware that they're interacting with NFTs. Like if you have something like, imagine a passport right now. Your passport, it's a physical document that isn't really smart. You have to look at physical features on it to verify it's authentic. You might, if your host country and whatever country you're going to share systems with each other, you could look it up that way and verify it. But besides that, it's very dumb tech. This is something that an NFT could fix. Most passports, biometric ones, they have an NFC chip inside of it that records information. There's no reason that you can't put something like a token ID there, so that way when you get to the border and you're trying to enter a country, instead of them looking for like the holograms or all these security features on the document, they can look up the token ID, verify it comes from the smart contract issued by your country, and the verification is complete immediately. If you're trying to go and open up a bank account right now, so you have to do all these verification steps to prove your identity. If you have a tokenized ID, you can connect your wallet, sign, and you are immediately verified. So I think we're going to see a lot of use cases where NFTs are emerging as a tech that could be used in our everyday life as a verification tool. It's just that way it makes life easier. And for most people, it's not even going to be something you're aware of. It could just become a new normal that's hidden in plain sight for everyone.
You mentioned like it's you said basically with NFT projects like it's nothing new, right? Like it's nothing new what most NFT projects are doing right now. Like how can we improve? Like can we even improve on existing NFT projects that have failed? Is there a way to revive them? Or are founders better off like starting scratch again? Because I've had like a ton of issues with this in the past, you know, like getting paid in crypto full time. And basically it could be paid in like an old smart contract, right? And then the founder has to like basically start again and relaunch, redeploy the smart contract. Do you think like there's going to be like better ways to revive existing communities? Like we have the use cases of rappers that like solve that issue. Rappers, instead of like having to redeploy everything straight away. There is so many different ways, but what is the best use case, you know? I'm definitely like, I absolutely love anything to do with historical NFTs. So who was the first like experimenters, and finding out like how they came up with that idea and trying to delve more into their heads. So yeah, I want to talk about like what is going to be like, how can we help basically revive existing projects and help those founders? Do we think that it's better to start again, start fresh, or keep it continuing and keep like trying to revive the projects?
If your project died, it died. There's no reviving it. You seen Justice League when they killed Superman and then they said, let's bring him back? You saw how he lashed out? Bringing something back from the dead never works. If it's dead, it's dead. And if it's your project, bite the bullet. You messed up. You didn't do it right. Your team was crap. It is what it is. Go to a new project, look at what you did wrong, and then go again. Plus, trying to revive a project when it's already dead and there's no momentum, you have to build all the momentum back up. That's time and energy wasted. You could build 3 projects in the time of doing that. So it's best to just take a step back, learn from what you did, see what went well, see what went wrong, and then go again.
Yeah. Do you both agree as well?
Yeah, I guess, but like how dead was Project Penguins before it got, I guess, sort of reset? It wasn't like really dead, was it?
But I don't believe Project Penguins was dead because they had too much stuff going in the background that people didn't know about.
Now they're absolutely not dead, but like it got taken over, right?
Exactly. So new management sometimes is a way to revive the project, or else like a new team, right?
Yeah, and I think this comes back to as well, like, you know, when it got taken over, they actually started doing things. And I think that's a big thing as well. There's a lot of telling in this space, and I think, you know, doing and like showing that you are doing stuff is like, you know, that's what actually builds trust.
No, I agree. So we have like 2 points of the story here. We're at the end of our talk now. I want to just say, if anyone wants to do a last recap what they're working on right now that you haven't already mentioned, now is your time. Jacob, I'll let you go.
Okay, so as far as what I'm working on, I run an early stage company out of Berlin that's developing a tokenized solution for software licensing, as well as providing different Web3 developer tools. I guess in short, the licensing system could be thought of as token gating for Git repositories, and I make different developer tools such as an API for resolution of decentralized content. That's stuff like IPFS and certain name services like the Ethereum name service.
Lars, yeah?
Yeah, so the alpha is just stay tiny. Like super, super tiny.
I think that's probably the best thing said this entire talk. So I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Spicy Capital, also known as SC Group. We're a VC fund in the crypto space and very focused on Bitcoin layer 1, layer 2s, looking into deep in AI, gaming as well, and we're dabbling in RWA. So we're focused on early stage startups. It could be seed, pre-seed, Series A, and once we invest and we deploy capital, all our marketing resources are going to be a complimentary service. So that covers all social media platforms. We could run the social media for you if you wanted to. So we're a VC and also an incubator behind the scenes.
Very good. What I'm currently working on, probably the most interesting one that's actually launched today is called Xverse. It's a gaming P2P player shooter. So if anyone is a gamer here, check out Xverse. I want to say thanks so much to everyone. I really enjoyed this conversation. For Jacob for coming up with a good topic. Thank you. Cheers.